team is getting pretty darn big, yet I don't think any of us are going to ask the Vision to leave. Yes, he's made a surprise appearance on these Avengers Age of Ultron posters that are coming out from Marvel each day. 2 a day. We've got our 2 for today. And of course, one was Hawkeye, then Quicksilver, all to be expected. But then what do you know? Who pops up but the Vision? Is he going to be a member of the team from the get-go? This is a very interesting and surprising update on Joss Whedon's potential vision for this sequel. He has his traditional costume on, you can see. I don't know why a robot would want to wear a cape. Maybe he looks over at Thor and says, that looks pretty good. And speaking of Thor, you can see the edge of his red cape there in the top of the poster. So I guess he's going to be filling in a middle piece. It really is like doing a puzzle, an awesome puzzle. So anyway, the Vision traditional costume, yellow, green, and red. Looks like he's bald, no hair. I think that's going to be a tough look for Paul Bettany to pull off. Jesse Eisenberg has to do it over, we're assuming, for Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I think one of the reasons that Bryan Cranston and Denzel Washington are so good at wearing the shaved head look is because they have a bigger build. But I think, and no offense to any slightly or slighter build BTT viewers, but I think the shaved head look is harder to pull off when you're a slighter of build. Not that Vision isn't going to be awesome, and you know, Vision doesn't have hair. But when you think about Paul Bettany in there, maybe they're still working on the look, and that's why you don't quite see a full reveal here in the poster. But I'm sure Marvel knew that this was going to be a big deal when they released it today. You can see the little mini Ultrons reaching for his feet, being like, damn it, he's flying above us, he's too high. And I think that's humorous. Ultron's like, note to self, incorporate flying abilities. They're both built by Tony Stark, though, apparently, so how can one fly and the other cannot? And he doesn't look like he has any booster jets, you know, like the Iron Man suit. So I think that's very interesting indeed. But it looks like he leapt right out of the comics, so that's very interesting. Now, someone who looks like they didn't run off the comics is Quicksilver. Now, a couple of you eagle-eyed viewers spotted his blue blur in the back of the Black Widow poster yesterday. And here he is in full glory. We're catching him in a moment, but you can catch a couple of moments behind him. There's a lot going on in this poster. You can see little freeze frames of him at different points in the fight. There's 2 that I can make out. The one right behind with his hand, and then there's another a little further back. At first I was like, why does that Ultron, drone have a face? And I was like, oh, that's Quicksilver. So I think that's a subtle effect, but you know, I'm very curious to see how Joss Whedon can create a unique effect that is as cool yet differs from what Bryan Singer did with his Quicksilver over in X-Men Days of Future Past, which ended up being wonderfully realized. Now, while I wear these thumb shirts myself quite a bit, and I'm a big fan of them, I wouldn't wear them if I joined the Avengers, and I continue to feel that this costume just doesn't have the look of a superhero, not costume, but uniform. I guess that's the term I'm going for. This doesn't look like a uniform. It looks like Casual Friday on the Avengers. And his hair looks a little wet. I don't know why his hair wouldn't be streaked back. I mean, like, did he stop for a second? Or does he, are bangs just a poor fashion choice for Quicksilver? But, also I do like, though, the way these blue streaks in his shirt kind of create electric trails behind him. Of course, he doesn't want to telegraph where he's going, only where he's been, in case any of his enemies want to target him. But you'll also note that Black Widow, as we saw yesterday, has some blue to her suit from the electric charge that she's been given. So you're seeing, you see 2 capes, now you see kind of 2 blue electric charges. There'll be some synergy, some complementary color schemes and visual items going on in this team, which could make for some interesting compositions on Joss Whedon's part. I love The Avengers. It's one of my favorite movies, but I have to say, with all due respect to Joss Whedon, he hasn't really been upping his game visually. It's not one of those movies where you could pause it at any moment and frame it and stick it on your wall. Maybe he's going to try a little harder this time. But this looks very cool, and of course that Vision reveal is the big deal here. Now let's go over to Hawkeye. He got a poster too. Jeremy Renner is like, no matter how hard I complain, nobody cares. You see all these arrows everywhere. I'm impressed that these arrows can puncture an Ultron drone. He seems to be having, I have to say, he seems to be having the hardest time of all the heroes we've seen so far. He looks a little kind of in disbelief about that, like, why is it always so hard for me? And he looks like he has an arrow drawn here on his left hand. There isn't much to reveal here. I do think it's interesting he doesn't have his coat on that they're giving him for this movie. He has like a really cool overcoat they've given him. He's got the sleeveless look here. And I think Jeremy Renner really has his work set out for him. Archers are everywhere. There was an archer in Hercules that I just saw last night. My review's coming up later today. I have to get to it. There's so much stuff coming out for Comic-Con. But so I think archers, and then there's Katniss Everdeen, obviously. You know, it's a very, you know, Artemis on Young Justice. There are a lot of archers, and so I think Hawkeye, while archers do seem to really strike a nerve with moviegoers, you know, to be the archer is a tall order. But I think these are great, and I think bravo to Marvel for a great reveal with the Vision. I think that's definitely going to probably come up in their Hall H presentation tomorrow. I wonder if Paul Bettany will show up, and I'm really glad for Paul Bettany. He's worked so hard as just the voice of Jarvis. I think it's great he's finally going to get some screen time in the metal, not the flesh. But I'm very curious to see the design for that. And just to explain why Tony Stark would go from creating like this Ultron character who looks very similar to his Iron Man suit, and then for the Vision, go like totally retro. So what do you think? Do you like the Vision being a member of the team? Do you think the team is getting too crowded? You know, it's hard to balance a very large cast, and the cast was big enough last time around. And if anyone's going to be given maybe a little bit of a back seat, which Avengers could you take a breather from? Perhaps it'll be Chris Hemsworth as Thor, because his sequel didn't do so hot, and Loki, of course, is not going to show up this time around. Write your thoughts down below, and continue to stay tuned in for coverage coming out of San Diego Comic-Con.